feet underwater.
Y'all know what's going on. It's time for another episode of Doing Time with Joe. I'm your host, Joe Baker, and welcome to the show, y'all. Now look here. The summer's over. Chris is going back home, right? But before he goes back home, Shawn tells him that he has something very important for him to do. Not for him, which it is, but for the organization, right? And Chris is very attentive. He's listening because he looks up to Shawn. He sees Shawn as that father figure that he's never had. So whatever he asks him to do, he's more than willing to do it. He's more than willing to do it. But you got to remember, Chris is a child. He's a child. And Shawn understands that what he's about to ask him to do is going to put him in danger. So he's going to walk him slow. It's not going to make him push the issue. So what he tells him is that he wants him, when he goes back to the South Side, he wants him to get close to some of the brothers that are in the neighborhood that are gangsters. Don't push the issue like you want to become a member, he tells him. He said, just hang around them. You know what I'm saying? Hang around them at school. See what they're talking about. Tell me how they're getting their money if you can. Tell me how they're doing things. Pay attention to everything. He wants him to collect what I call recon. He's doing reconnaissance, right? He's gathering information. It's almost like a spy. And the reason that he needs him to do this is because it's going to fit into what it is that he's trying to do. He wants to do something, Shawn wants to do something to impress the higher ups so he can continue to move up, and he don't care nothing about using Chris to do it. But Chris is not aware. He's not aware that he's being manipulated. He's too young to understand that. He's too young to know better. Too young to know better. So Shawn tells him, look, and this has to stay between me and you. You can't tell your mother. You can't say anything to the other brothers in Vice Lord. You can't say nothing to nobody. This is a secret mission between me and you. And I don't know about you, but when you tell a child that something is secret between them and you, most kids like that because it makes them feel special. You got to remember, you're manipulating a 13-year-old's mind. A 13-year-old that you are treating like a brother, like an adult. A 13-year-old that Shawn is treating in a way that he's never been treated by another male figure. Chris didn't have any secrets from his mother. He didn't even understand what that meant. You know, yeah, of course, 13-year-old, you know what I'm saying, a boy coming into his own, he doesn't tell his mother everything, but if his mother asks him about something that's going on in the right way, he would tell her because she's been everything to him, his entire support system. But now, here comes Shawn. Here comes Shawn. And he's put himself in a position to where he's going to have more influence over Chris than Chris's own mother. And he gives Chris some money to take back with him. And he tells him, he said, look, I'm going to mail you some money every week so that you don't have to take anything from your mother. He's doing that because he wants Chris to become dependent on him. So Chris is all excited about this because now he has the brother, he has the male figure in his life that he's never had. So when his mother comes to pick him up, he plays the role. Everything was fine. He loved it. And he can't wait till next summer to come back. And he asked his mother on the way home, you know, can I go down there on the weekends? And all of these types of things. And she was like, sure, but we got to figure out. And he told her, he said, Shawn said he'll come pick me up or he'll send me the money for a bus ticket and I can come back. I just want to go down there and have some fun. I met some new friends and all this and that. What she doesn't know is the new friend is the Vice Lord brothers. And more important than that is Shawn, this 20-some-year-old man. And she's all excited because her son, that was an introvert, that liked to stay in the house, that liked to play, you know what I'm saying, video games, but he did play basketball, he's venturing out. He's venturing out. And because her friend, Miss Kathy, didn't tell her that anything significant went on, she feels like he's safer over there. And he's met people that he likes over there. So he's going to be okay. She's cool with it. She tells him, yeah, you can go back every now and then. You know what I'm saying? It's not every weekend, but you can go back. So he's back home. And after a couple of weeks, he decides that it's time to put into motion what Shawn has put in his head. So he starts to hang out on the porch first. And he's watching the guys in the neighborhood that's his age. They're running up and down the street. They're affiliated, but they're playing football. They're doing the things that kids 13 and 14, 15-year-olds do after school. So he's watching them and they're having fun. So he gets next. And he gets out there and he plays with them and all of these types of things. And then they start to like each other. But Shawn has manipulated and poisoned his mind so well in such a short amount of time that he plays the role. None of it is sincere. None of it is sincere. He's befriending them so he can be friends with them, rather, so he can get the information that he needs to give Shawn. And I want you to pay attention to that, because this need, this desire for him to be accepted, this desire for him to be accepted and approved by Shawn is what's driving him. This connection that he has to Shawn, he doesn't want to lose that. It's not Vice Lord. It's not the other younger brothers in the organization. It's Shawn. He wants Shawn's approval. When Shawn disconnected for him after the first 2 weeks when he went down there for the summer, it made him feel an abandonment that he had long forgotten. He had forgotten what it felt like to be abandoned by his father, because his father had been gone for so long that when he got a taste of that connection, that male bonding, and then it was taken away from him, it freaked him out. Now, he don't understand that. That's what's going on in his head. That's what's going on in his head, y'all. You feel me? That's that moral code. And let me explain what that means to y'all. See, a moral code is what happens to all of us. You know, it's what we believe, what we think. You know, your moral code can consist of things that are immoral and moral, right? It can consist of being a racist. That's part of your moral code on that spectrum, right? It consists of being a bigot. It consists of being a gang member. All of these immoral activities, these immoral behaviors, they are part of that moral code that you have, right? Now, you don't understand what that means because you might not understand how the brain works. But when you're afraid, your body puts off cortisol, and that is causing you to be afraid of whatever it is that's going on. And he's experiencing this trauma that when his dad abandoned him, and now all of a sudden Shawn abandons him after 2 weeks down there on the north side in the summer, and now all of a sudden that fear is released in him again, right? And then to offset that, his brain is flooded with endorphins and adrenaline, the same thing that happens to you when you get high, and it calms him down. And what he realizes without realizing is that I need to do something to stay calm. What do? I need that connection to Shawn. And now his moral code, his moral compass is made up by these things that are far to the left. His moral code is to do what? Ignore what ignore what his mother has taught him, ignore the realities that are staring him right in the face. It's okay for me to do what this person wants me to do because it brings me down. It makes me feel at peace. It takes away the pain and the sting of the trauma. And in doing that, he becomes corrupted, but he don't know why. But to continue to satisfy that feeling, right? To continue to be the person that he needs to be for Shawn and to get the acceptance from Shawn, he needs to manipulate these people right here, the people that are on his side of the town. He's got to manipulate them, use them. And in doing that, he stays calm. He doesn't feel the sting of the trauma. His moral code consists of deception, lying, using people. So his moral compass is made up of that. And he sees nothing wrong with it. So he's out there, he's kicking it with them. He's learning all of these different things about them. And when he talks to Shawn, because they talk on the phone, when he talks to Shawn, he tells Shawn what's going on. Shawn is patient. He knows those things. That information is not really what he needs, but he's patient. He understands that it's a process. He understands that it's a process. He understands that what's happening with Chris right now is he's getting familiar with them, they're getting familiar with him, and eventually the question is going to come. So when he's talking to Chris, he's telling him, he said, look, one day, and it's not going to be long, they're going to start to trust you. And when they start to trust you, they're going to want you around. But in order for you to be around, you're going to have to become part of that organization. Now, this just throws Chris out of whack. He said, what you mean? How can I become part of that organization when I'm a part of the organization that you are a part of? How can I do that? That's when Shawn tells him, this is bigger than you. It's bigger than me. When the opportunity presents itself for you to join, you join, but let your heart stay vice lord. Nobody can ever know that you are truly vice lord. Nobody. You have to make them believe that you're a gangster. You got to learn everything that they teach you. You got to become part of them. You got to learn how to walk like a gangster, talk like a gangster, live like a gangster. And you got to keep it all secret from your mother. And they can never know that you vice lord, because if they ever find out that you vice lord, they're going to kill you. Now imagine a 13-year-old being told this by the person that he emulates, that he wants to be like, that he looks up to, that this male figure that has come into his life like a wrecking ball and turned his life upside down in less than 6 months or a year. You know? But because his moral code, even though he don't understand what that is, had come to include deception, manipulation, and using other people like that, he agreed to it. Why? Because it took away the sting of the trauma of being abandoned. He wanted to please Shawn. So he did it. He did it. It took a few more months. But the question came. And he played like he was reluctant, like he really didn't want to do it. And they kept coming at him and kept coming at him, and they were introducing him to people, taking him around the city, you know what I'm saying, showing him all of this and that, the benefits of being a gangster. And it was pretty much the same thing that Shawn had done to him. But there was one difference. In his mind, he had convinced himself of one thing. You know what that is? That Shawn cared about it. He had convinced himself of that, right? And that's what a lot of us do. We get caught up in the idea of what it is, it looks like, or what we want it to be, as opposed to what it really is. If you love me, you wouldn't lie to me. If you love me, you wouldn't use me. It's right in his face. It's right in his face. But that idea of what love is, that idea that had been put in his head by Shawn of what this is bigger than you. It's bigger than me. This is something that you have to do to help the org, because you are part of this org. So because he had drank the Kool-Aid and he had come to believe this, he did everything that Shawn wanted him to do. Absolutely everything. And it put him in a bad situation. A bad situation. And he was confused, but he was convinced. Think about what I just said. He was confused, but he was convinced. He was convinced that by doing what Shawn wanted him to do, that eventually, long term, somewhere down the road, everything would be okay. Because in his mind, all he wanted was that relationship with Shawn. So when the day came and they asked him to join again and again and again, he finally relented and said, I'll do it. He said, I'll do it. He knew what it was going to take. It was hands-on. When I say hands-on, y'all know what I'm talking about. Knuckle up. It's time to get it. He had been through it with Vice Lord. He was going to go through it and suffer it with the gangsters. But it was a big difference here. His heart wasn't GD. His heart was Vice Lord. And he was a child. Did you hear what I said? He was a child being manipulated by a grown man. By a grown man. Then turned this boy's mind upside down. So the day comes and he goes through the process. He walks the gauntlet, and now guess what? He's GD. They hugging him and caressing him and drawing the G in his back. And in his mind, every time that they drew that G in his back, guess what he said? In his mind, silently, to himself. It's Vice Lord with me. It's Vice Lord with me. It's Vice Lord with me. He's convincing himself that this is stronger than that. He would not allow himself to be sucked into it because he had a job to do. He had a job to do, and he was going to do it. And he wasn't going to let nothing interfere with that relationship that he had developed with Shawn. Nothing. Nothing. And he told himself they can never know. They can never know what I'm doing. If they know, they're going to kill me. That's what he told himself. That's what Shawn told him. And he believed it. And it was true. Because now, he full-fledged infiltrator. Full-fledged spy. Like, let me tell you something now. At his age, at that age, in an organization, no. He wouldn't sit at the table. He's not going to be sitting around the BMs, the board members. You know what I'm saying? He's not going to be in the room when decisions are being made. But he's going to have access to those individuals because they want to groom him in the way that Shawn groomed him. But they want to do it for GD's purposes. You understand? They want to do things in their way. So he's just like unknowingly, he's a ping pong ball. He's getting hit, patted back and forth. He don't even know it. He don't even understand it because he's too young to know better. He's too young to know better. There's no way he can fully comprehend and understand what it is that they're going to be doing to him. But he's willing to go through it because he's developed a strong love for Shawn. Because he's a child. Let me say that one more time, y'all. Because he's a child. And he wants the approval of this male figure that is coming to his life. So he goes through it. And he's calling every night, telling Shawn what's going on throughout his day. And they're laughing and talking. And Shawn is giving him assignments, telling him, learn this, learn that. Ask him about how can you become part of the business. Things like that. Things like that. Because once he becomes part of the business, then they're going to see that they can trust him if he can hold his own. And the whole time all of this is happening, his mother is still working 2 jobs. Now don't forget, Shawn is sending him money every week in the mail. And he's a child, so he's not asking his mother for as much as he used to, and she notices that. And she asks him, are you okay? Do you need anything? He says no. Now she starts to notice that new pair of shoes that he has hidden under the bed. She starts to notice the new shirt or the new pair of pants that he has hanging up in his closet. See, he's 13. He don't know that, his mom pays attention to him. He's her child. So she starts to see these types of things. She starts to notice that he's hanging around with these kids in the neighborhood a lot more, but he's not wearing the colors like that. So she's like, are you a part of anything? Is there anything that I need to know? She understands the neighborhood. She understands. She's not green, but she don't want that for him. And he does something that he's become accustomed to doing with his mom because of the influence Shawn has on him. He lies. He lies. But I'm going to tell you something. Y'all know the streets talk. The streets talk. And the streets were telling her that Chris is involved with the gangsters. So she's watching because she's afraid for him. She knows what can happen. See, he don't know the truth about why his father is not in the picture. But she does. She knows why he's not in the picture. No, he's not dead. But he crossed the gangsters and he had to leave. And he didn't even bother to offer her the opportunity to go with him. He just up and left and abandoned them because he was a coward and he was afraid to face what he had coming. Let me say something. You can't beat that blue mile. I understand that. When that wave come at you, it's a tight fight with a short pipe. But he could have at least made arrangements to take them with him or send for them later, but he didn't do it. She has no clue where he's at, what he's doing, is he alive or anything like that, but she know that he left them. And he left them because he had done something and the gangsters were going to get him. And now she's looking at the prospect, because of the streets are talking, that her son might be a part of that organization. And it terrified her because she didn't want Chris to get on the wrong side of the gangsters. Now, the old heads in the org knew, and they knew Lisa, but they knew Lisa had nothing to do with what her boyfriend did. So they left her alone. And they left Chris alone. But Chris don't know these types of things. But the ones at the top, they do. Shawn don't even know. He don't care. He don't care about none of that. So now, Lisa, she's leaning back and she's just going to watch and let it play itself out so she can see for herself. Because at this point, she's starting to believe, yeah, Chris is lying. Something's not right here. Yeah, the streets, you got to be careful what you listen to in the streets because the streets don't always get it right. But it's never that far off. Believe that. Believe that. Unless you get somebody sour that just wants to spread some nonsense in the streets because they know how the streets gossip. But when it's pure, it's pure. And it's no way that Chris can afford the things that he's gotten in his room without some help. She doesn't know about Shawn, but she's thinking that the gangsters got him doing some things, right? And it's about to happen anyway because Chris is asking them to let him get into business because he needs to figure out all of the things that are going on with them, the routes, the drop-offs, the who's supplying them, all of these things. At 13, he's being tasked with doing some things that will get him killed. Shawn don't care about that though. He just wants the information. It doesn't matter what it cost Chris, but that's part of the manipulation. So the gangsters agreed to let Chris run a few packs here and there. They don't want him to do too much. They want him to stay in school. Ain't that funny? Do you see the irony in that? They want him to stay in school. They don't want him out doing all types of things, you know what I'm saying, that's going to take him away from that. But see, some of the other kids, they're still in school too, and they're doing their thing. They're doing their thing. And that's true. That happens sometimes. So I'm not going to sit here and paint everything with a broad brush. But just because they have some good things going on don't mean it is good. You feel me? That's part of the propaganda that's put out. You see? So here's the thing. Now, Chris talks to Shawn and he lets him know, look, they got me running now. And he tells him to make sure that he writes down everywhere that he goes, who he talks to, how much he's taking, where he picks it up from, everything that has anything to do with what he's about to embark on. Shawn wants to know all the details. All the details. You know? So he's doing that. He's reporting back everything to Shawn. And Shawn is building this portfolio, this dossier of all this information so that one day he'll be able to use it to his advantage and elevate himself in a position of authority that will give him the power and the prestige, the street cred that he's craving. And that's the goal, to become that dude. He doesn't care Chris gets killed in the process. Now that's the plot, y'all. That's what's going on. And Chris is fully committed. He's fully committed. But he's about to be introduced to something that's going to take him to another level real fast. Real fast. And it's going to consume him for the next few years. And it's going to cause him to question a lot of things that he's doing. But you're not going to be able to hear that unless you listen to the next episode. So check it out, y'all. This has been another episode of Doing Time with Joe. I'm your host, Joe Baker, and I say peace, y'all.
I've been trying to breathe underwater.